throw to Brazil, and both these teams sparring for an opening. It's all very canny stuff. Rivellino, and it's Pelé, he's got it! Pelé has scored, and that is Brazil's 100th goal in the World Cup. So Pelé has scored, and as Sassao takes the throws, see what happens. Pelé, Rivellino putting it right across, Pelé leaping right above the ball, heading it down. And so it's 1-0 for Brazil, Brazil's 100th goal in the World Cup. I've never seen anything like it. This really is fantastic, and the referee has stopped it. It's all over. Brazil have won the World Cup, and there's a mass invasion of the Aztec Stadium. Pelé is being grabbed. Fantastic scene. Brazil have won the cup, and they keep it forever. And I never thought anybody would get on the pitch at the Aztec Stadium, but my goodness, they've done it this time.
Did you follow the European Championships this summer?
Yes, but less.
Less?
Yes, not really, because I had no time. But at the same time, it's really less. I'm much less involved than before.
Yeah, it wears off with age. But if you'd become a very good soccer player, would you have played for Egypt in the end, or for Switzerland, had you been offered a chance?
I don't know. I think that it would have been in Switzerland where I have been playing for years, much more than in
it's a big issue here in the Netherlands with Turkish players, Dutch Turkish players often choosing to play for the Turkish team, the Moroccan players sort of half-half. One player who really got quite some vicious feedback when he chose to play for his Dutch team. Why do you think some still choose to play for Turkey where they haven't been born? Or
Yes, I think it's a very deep question because it has to do with the sense of belonging. So it's not because you have the nationality that you get the sense of belonging. And the sense of belonging is that you feel that this is my team because these are my people. This is my world. So it takes time. I think that sometimes we want it to be too fast. It's normal when you are coming first generation, second generation, still to be connected and you feel that this is my country. With time, when the people are feeling much, involved in and accepted as part of the society, when you feel that this is your country, I think that this is going to change. So we have to be patient with things like this, and it's normal that you have, even now, we had this discussion in France about, the Tunisian team and the Algerian team, and they were, booing the French anthem by saying, no, this is not our country. And people were shocked, and I understand why they were shocked, but we also have to understand that you cannot build in one generation a deep sense of belonging. It takes time. So for me, if now it was something which was quite normal for me to be in a Swiss team. At that time, I was even playing when I was a junior. And I felt that this was home, but I can understand that for some we need time.
Yeah.
I was much more an exception than the rule.
You could have been the Zinedine Zidane of Switzerland.
No, you know why? Because I'm not playing like Zidane. I will never. It's really even here. I'm using Zidane by telling to the people, Zidane could help us to get a sense of what is a positive syndrome. The positive Zidane syndrome is that he's giving so much to the French team that no one is asking him, where do you come from? Yeah. But what are you giving to the... So when you give to your team, the people are very happy because they go with you. But when you are perceived as a problem, they are asking, where do you come from? So at the end is that we have to export the symbol of Zidane giving to the French team, our contribution to our society. So from sport to society is you are what you give. And people are going to forget your second nationality when you are part of a team. And a team is what? Is people working together to build a project, to build a success, a victory. So I think that the symbol of sport here is quite important, with one thing which is important, assertive and offensive, not on the defensive.
No. Your life seems to be someone who's skiing between all these enormous themes, because we're now moving to your field of study, which is philosophy. So here we have this man of very controversial stock in Egypt. Then he moves to Switzerland. He is a very good sportsman. And then he chooses to study philosophy and specializes in Nietzsche.
Yes, it's it's something which was quite important. I was very lucky my family left Egypt for political reasons, and they arrived in Switzerland. I was the youngest of this family, and at the same time, the first book, the Quran was there, of course. It was a very religious atmosphere, but the first book I got from my mother was a book of poetry. I said, read that. She was giving me. She was coming from Egypt. She didn't speak French. She gave me a book of Alfred de Musset, a French poet. I said, read that. Telling me this language, it's a language you should get. This language is a language of poetry. And then I got that. And at that time, I started to be very much involved in French literature. When I was young, I was doing two things. Practicing sports, as we said, and reading. Sometimes I was reading 5 hours a day, and my father came to me once and said, Tariq, life is not in books. I will always remember he knocked at the door, opened the door, looked at me. I was just like this, and he looked at me and said, Tariq, life is not in books. And this is now something that I understand what he meant, because I really think that books are windows towards the world, towards life, but they are not life, so you don't have to protect yourself from the life with books. But this was the French literature, and then philosophy, because I was not the first in my family to choose philosophy. My eldest brother, the second in fact, because the first one was a medical doctor, he started philosophy. And he came back home with question, discussion, and I liked it, and I went for that. And I was encouraged to do this, because it was really about reading books. And so I started to read and to read and to read a lot. And there is someone who struck my attention as to he was encompassing all the great questions of philosophy. And Heidegger was telling about him, he was the last metaphysician. And that's true. I really think that Nietzsche was the end of something which was quite important in the Western philosophy. So I went to him. I started to study the concept of suffering. Why? Because I think it's important. Someone who is telling you, life is to suffer, and tell me what you are doing with your suffering, I will tell you who you are. I think it's right. I think it is right, and you feel, and you see this in all the religious, philosophical tradition. At the end of the day, we're just trying to understand why we are suffering.
Yes, that's it. I'll come back to that. A Russian adaptation for film of Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment. We'll have a look first. We'll then talk about it. It is the main character has just killed his mate, can't live with the realization what he's done, and decides to confess to his love what he's done. It's very Russian.